I really like to challenge people on this, which is, do you have a vision of what it would feel like to start growing again? Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Revive Your Life podcast, where we dive deep into your questions about mental health, personal growth, relationships, and transformation in ways that will inspire you to approach life's many transitions and challenges with a fresh perspective. My goal is to help you unlock your potential for continued growth. So let's begin. Welcome, everyone, to Revive Your Life podcast. My name is Bianca Grace. I'm a licensed therapist, and I've been doing this podcast for a time, but I have shifted its perspective, and now I'm focusing a little bit more on your questions and me answering solo for a time. And then I think we'll pull some people in that have had transformational experiences with me or in their lives in general who want to share that. But I think that it's a good idea to start at the beginning before we start to introduce people and just start hearing about their end results. It's actually a good idea to think about the beginning. And the beginning is kind of a complicated process because a lot of times people are finally calling me or finally reaching out for guidance or help once they've really been in a kind of ambivalent battle within themselves for a time about that inner call that they're getting to reach out, but then they're like, oh no, I can do it. I can hang on one more day, or I'll figure this out. Or the next day they feel a little bit better. Whatever it is that they say to themselves to kind of retract their hand from reaching out for help is something that I experience a lot in this work, even once they start working with me or someone else. And I think it's just an important topic to begin with. So we start to wonder about, like, in life, I think, how it is that you got to where you are, because maybe you don't really track every day or take inventories, like I said, or have connected the dots looking back, but you end up in this place in adulthood where life experiences are now happening at a maybe more quick rate, or that you're feeling pretty challenged by the changes that are coming up, or that there's more responsibility on your plate. And I think that as life continues to advance and age, our coping skills that we had back when actually life was more simple. Responsibilities were also a little bit less on the Richter scale of when you have a family and a home and a job and, relationships. So clearly our coping skills seem to work better back then. Usually, I don't really hear from people as much with these larger life issues until they're in their 40s. And then, wow, yeah, those defense mechanisms, coping skills, strategies, I'll say defenses again, because that's what really they all are. They are no longer working. And that's when we reach kind of a critical point where everything that's happened to us in life, and this is how our mind works, has encoded itself in our mind, and we've created maybe a very quick schema of when this happens, this is the outcome. And so if we've hit a failure or we've felt like we made a mistake, we see that the outcome is a big mess, and we don't want to bother ourselves with having to clean that up. If we said this thing to this person, we're no longer going to be saying that thing to that person because that person got mad one time or two times and I'm not going back. So we get ourselves in a real rut and actually very stuck because our life experiences encode themselves in ways that we would say we're either now going to defend ourselves against doing that again, or have an excuse for not doing that again, or we're going to avoid doing that again. And negative life experiences can really start to cause a lot of rigidity in our own mind and not seeing other possibilities for approach, which is why I'm doing this podcast mainly, is to open up your mindset again and to start to see from different perspectives places that you've really closed down possibility, and look at all the defenses that you've created around that space, and then start to open it up one at a time, because you can't do it all at once. And being able to say, okay, I see that I'm not going there anymore. And so what does that mean about me? What does that mean about the defense? What does that mean about what I'm saying to myself? All of this is around, this is time to start asking for help, because at some point, going through that process that I just easily named isn't very easy for a person inside their own mind that has now run out of steam, run out of energy for being able to hold everything that they've experienced in life with avoidance or defense and move forward at the same time. Like, how is that possible? It's not. People will be exhausted and cannot actually source themselves or be the resource that they need to be in order to start having new experiences or different perspectives. So generally, this is when I say, hey, it's time to reach out for some guidance, because once you get so locked into some of these patterns, it's very difficult to see from that vantage point of conflict within yourself a way out. So I say that, absolutely it takes two, and you need that outside objective person that generally knows what it is that they're looking for and maybe areas that you're stuck, to help guide you out and start to facilitate, like, again, some new perspectives, like helping you with some food for thought, and then you trying that out. So we'll move to the next subject here, which is, we also, when we get into this place, can start to feel pretty helpless. So when we reach out at this point, generally conflict is high inside, like inner conflict. So you're experiencing stress, anxiety, maybe relationship issues. This means all of the old ways of thinking, all of your old ways of coping with things are no longer working. And so the distress mounts possibly quickly and becomes very emotional rather quickly too. So this is when generally people reach out, but that's in a place of fight or flight. That's in a place of survival mode. And I like to get people to take a second to recognize that it would be wonderful if people could reach out earlier for guidance in, more of a personal growth, let's say a preemptive personal growth strategies, and really have the tools to tackle this stuff as it comes along, or be adaptive as these challenges mount. Though I would love to get that ball rolling, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, which is, once you're in this space, you can start to really feel like a victim of your circumstances and of your life, and that can put you into a position that's not as empowered with your provider, your therapist, your coach, whoever you're connecting with to help. So I ask people to really take a moment and recognize that we really begin this journey not only when we find the right person to assist us and that understands us, that helps us to organize this process. Yes, that's absolutely important, and you can see why, hopefully, from the vantage point of you're kind of stuck in yourself. So that's definitely there. But the second part is self-investment. And when we say self-investment, a lot of times people are like, oh, that's spending money on myself. But I say that absolutely that's included. But we also want to recognize that self-investment means, are we willing to invest in improving our state of mind? Are we willing to invest time and effort into ourselves by cultivating new ways of thinking, or a relationship with things that we use maybe to cope, whether that's food, whether it's exercise, alcohol, work, or relationship, sex? Are we willing to invest the time in ourselves? Not invest the time in somebody else solving our problems for us, but really invest the time in a professional that helps you set up a good personal portfolio where you are in some ways invested in a multiple level of ways in yourself, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally. Improving communication would be improving your relationships, and professionally. And so I think that this is the thing, is that people get so invested in other people and making things work and fixing things. It's like, whoa, pause. Are you interested in really getting into the driver's seat of your life? Because that's the time to begin. Because it's from that place of being in the passenger seat and you're not sure what's driving the situation that we feel out of control, a victim of our circumstance. And we're going to have a really hard time, actually, if we're not engaged in our own work at a very high level. I mean, this is a big one. We're going to feel again like the thing that the therapist said or the guidance I got from that coach, well, that's not working. Well, you got to work it, right? In how many ways have you worked that concept? And if there's resistance there, excellent. The more that we can bring to the table, this is not a passive process. It's not about being right either. So the more we can bring to the table and like, oh, wow, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I'm having a lot of feelings around that. I'm feeling confused. I'm feeling angry. I'm not sure I'm going to do that. All of these things we bring to the table, we're going to understand more about you. And in that process of understanding more about yourself, you can use that to start to debunk some of these things as you're coming full circle. Maybe you're saying like a week between sessions, a couple weeks between sessions, whatever it is that you're doing. So I think that this is an integral kind of pivot point, is that we start to look for help and we start to ask for help when the scales are imbalanced, when we no longer are able to cope with the amount of stress that we are under in areas of our life that are important. But then we have to rebalance the scales by not only saying I'm investing in this help, but I'm actually going to invest in myself 100% and the time and the effort it's going to take to reestablish a healthy relationship with my mind, my body, and all these areas of my life. These are your relationships. These are your responsibilities. This is yourself, and you want to take care of it. That's not a selfish process. That's actually probably the most selfless thing you can do, is to take care of yourself in a deep and meaningful way, because I promise you, you will show up for your relationships in ways that you never have before. And you will also be able to set boundaries with relationships that are hurtful to you in ways that you've never had before. So this is an all-around good idea, is to take care of oneself and invest in oneself in a meaningful way. And then the last thing is, I really like to challenge people on this, which is, do you have a vision of what it would feel like to start growing again? And I'm not talking about a past version of yourself. A lot of people start to think, I want to be the woman I was when, or I want to be the man I was when. And we can harness some of that, desire in that time of our life and say, ooh, I want that part of me reintegrated back. I want to give it some life. But actually, we've come a long way since that point. And there really isn't anything called going back and being that person again. We have had a lot of life experiences usually by the time we get to this point, and we want actually to start to reintegrate parts of us that maybe we have left in the past for other people, other situations, whatever reason we left that off. We do want to reintegrate, but I would love for you to be able to define really define, not me, and that might take some time and it might be a difficult process. Not just meaning it's not just right there on the tip of your tongue of what it would look like to start to grow again and the types of things you do and how you would cope with life's challenges differently. What would be your go-to for after a stressful day or a stressful event with a relationship? How is that different? Because if times have to be good and we always have to be positive and we hit a challenge and we revert back to old behaviors, that's not holistic growth. So we want to really fill in the blank, because as we start to do this work, and if you're very invested, old defense patterns and mechanisms and coping strategies that don't work are going to fall away. But that creates either a path to regression if you don't fill in the blank, but it creates a blank slate. And if you don't fill it with an idea of who you are going or you're becoming and you want to become in ways of like, these are the things I do. This is how I cope. This is what I am going to go towards. Then the automatic processes will come back in and even regressive tendencies. However, if you've done the work and those things happen, generally you can snap yourself back and go, whoo, what was that? That was one of those feeling states that I used to indulge in that absolutely tear me apart, burn me up, destroy my state of mind. Wow. You can have a reflective moment and pull yourself out, but it's really nice to actually have an idea of what you're going to do instead. So I think this is the most challenging, is the defining who you're going to be and how you think it's different and ways that you will be different, because you're going to make different choices, have different behaviors, do different things, call different people, who knows. And this is a great exercise I'd like to leave you with. And so as you are interested in possibly receiving guidance and doing all of this work for yourself and knowing that this is probably the most important investment that you'll make, I think, in your entire life, because it is a journey that is incredibly fulfilling as well. Take some time to be creative with the process and be playful with the process and invest your heart in the process. And I promise you will be getting a lot out of your investment working with a coach, therapist, guide, whatever works for you. All right. And that's all for today. I hope that makes sense. And if you wanted a little bit more of a step-by-step about how to find somebody and doing that work, I feel like I can refer you something online. If that's what you need more help with, feel free to ask a question in the comments and I'll respond. But I wanted to take some time to really explore this from a different perspective of how to begin your self-discovery journey in any way, shape, or form that you decide to go down that road. Okay, I'll see you next time. Thank you again for joining. All right, everyone, that's a wrap. If you found my content intriguing, go ahead and subscribe. You can check out more of my work on TikTok and Instagram under the handle The Bianca Grace, and then head on over to my website, biancagracetherapy.com, to find out more about upcoming retreats and events. Until next time, stay curious and keep growing.